Benvenuto, welcome to Cherry Hill Home Cooking. My name is Mark. Today we're going to be making another childhood favorite of mine. Now, thing is, this is something my grandmother used to make, and I never remember her giving it a specific name. But other recipes I've seen that are very similar to this, they're generally referred to as savory mince and potatoes. Of course, mince being Hamburg or ground beef, as we call it here in the United States. This is a recipe that my grandfather's mother used to make for him as a child, and then my grandfather, when they got married, she would make it for him as well. Ironically, it was on my Italian side. My grandmother is all Italian, and my grandfather is all Irish. And this was my Italian grandmother that used to make this. As far as ingredients, we're going to need 2 pounds of ground beef. For this, you want to use, at least the 85-15, maybe a little bit higher as well, because we don't need a lot of fat in this dish. We're going to need some carrots, some celery, some onion, and white cabbage. Those are going to be the vegetables. And of course, we're going to need some salt and pepper. Now, I've tried to keep this very similar to how my grandmother made it. One of the things I couldn't find is my grandmother used to use a product that was called Kitchen Bouquet, which I have seen in stores. I don't think it's something people use a lot anymore at home. But really, it's got a little bit of salt in it, and it's really for coloring. It would give this dish a nice, rich gravy. But I'm going to use soy sauce instead. That should work well. I don't know if we said salt and pepper, but of course we're going to need some salt and pepper to taste. We're going to need some Worcestershire sauce. We need some olive oil to saute our veggies up with. And another thing my grandmother always used was beef bouillon. I think I'm going to need about 4 cups for the 2 pounds. I'll work it out as we go through the recipe. So for 1 cup of liquid, you use 1 little packet of this beef bouillon. Now, you can use whatever beef bouillon you want, of course, or you can use the better than beef bouillon. My goal with this recipe was to keep it economical and feed a lot of people. And also I wanted to do it the way my grandmother did it. So we're going to use what she used to use. We're going to need some beef stock or water. I've got my own homemade beef stock here. Of course, you can check out that recipe and try your hand at making your own, or store-bought, or again, you can use water. We're going to need some tomato paste, and we need some cornstarch to thicken it up at the end. Now, the other thing my grandmother always used with this dish is she used instant mashed potatoes. Now, I happen to like instant mashed potatoes. A lot of people think it's an awful thing to eat instant mashed potatoes. But again, we're going back to probably the 1930s that my grandmother used to make this, and then until, the 60s and 70s. So I don't know if why she used instant mashed potatoes, but she always used instant mashed potatoes. And when I made this dish, I have made it with making my own fresh mashed potatoes, and I don't like it as much. The other thing she always used is, these are the 2 sides. She always used canned peas. So that's what we're going to use. You can use frozen if you'd like, but she always used canned peas, so that's what we are going to do. All right, before we get cooking, let's just finish prepping up our vegetables. You're going to want about a cup of each. So a cup of onion, cup of celery, cup of carrots, and a cup of white cabbage, for the 4 pounds of beef. Again, if you want to make this recipe bigger, just or double everything. So I'm going to cut these up, a rough chop. They don't have to be perfect, but we do want them maybe a little bit thinner than sometimes, or more diced. So I've just put, slices maybe about 1/4 inch and about the same down the middle, which will give you a nice little dice. We'll throw that piece out. All right. So, and then same thing with the With the celery, you want it to cook quick. The strange thing about celery is whenever my grandmother used celery, she would devein it. Now I've deveined it, most of it, but to devein it, you'll see those little hairs you're not going to be able to pick up in the camera, but you can see a little bit of hair, like a little piece of hair there. If you just take that and pull it down, that will devein your celery. And she did that with, no matter what she was using celery for, she always deveined it. I don't know why. I wish I had asked her. Maybe so you don't get celery in teeth. But anyway, so we're just gonna cut that into small little dice. Couldn't be easier. And again, we're cutting them small because we want everything. We want them to cook, all at about the same time. All right. Of course, I've already cut up most of it. Then the carrot, we can take and just cut that up into small pieces, or if you want to cut the bigger end and do it in dice. So if we did that, cut it in half, and cut it in half again, we'll have little dice. However you choose, or however easier it is for you. Excuse me. I got more than enough in there. Well, I will that last piece. All right, and then, sorry. We got I bought a very small head of cabbage. And we just want to cut that down like that. Oops. I suppose you could leave it in strips if you wanted. For those of you that aren't fond of cabbage, you don't have to put the cabbage in. As I said, that's the way my grandmother did it. And then we just cut it into small dice like that, guys. All right. So we basically got all of our veggies prepped. So let's get cooking. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got a heavy bottomed stock pot here or Dutch oven. You are going to put liquid in this, so you need something with high sides. If you're going to do it in a frying pan, just make sure they've got high sides. I've got this on medium heat. I've let my cast iron pot here come to medium heat. I'm going to add a couple tablespoons, maybe not even that, of olive oil, enough to coat the bottom. And we're going to get our vegetables in. So I'll put them all in at once. Like I said, in making the last few recipes, I wanted to make some that are economical and can feed a crowd. This with potatoes, and peas or any other vegetable you want as a side dish is going to feed, I'm going to say, at least 8 to 10. I think I'll also make some rice because Wade really likes my rice and he loves rice with anything. So you can also cover, you can top our nice savory minced meat with the rice as well, or put it as a side dish. Again, that's going to stretch it further. You can also make up some nice egg noodles, have it over egg noodles. My grandmother served it as 3 different things. The ground beef being the main course, potatoes and peas as a side dish. So anyway, we're gonna let that saute. Now, so we want the onions to, get translucent. Maybe the carrots and the celery to start to get, semi-soft. Of course, the cabbage is gonna cook really quick. But now, because we're gonna put soy sauce in this, we're also gonna put Worcestershire sauce and some of our bouillon. I'm not going to add a lot of salt during the cooking process. And also, I've got my homemade beef stock, so I know that what's in here, there's no salt in there whatsoever. So we're going to give it a taste when it's near completion to see if we need to add any salt. But I'm going to take a good healthy pinch. That'll get everything, maybe a pinch and a half, starting to getting the onions to lose a little bit of their moisture and getting everything nicely cooked. All right, so this is going to take a good 5-10 minutes, guys, to get it to the point I want it. And I'll stand here and continue to saute it, and we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so our veggies have been sauteing for about 7-8 minutes. All right. So now we just kind of, if you can, push them aside a little bit. At least that's always what I do. And then we'll get our hamburger in there. All right, I'm going to turn my heat up to high because we want to start to get this brown nice. Now I am going to add a little bit more salt. Of course, it's always good to add a little salt to any raw meat, especially beef, because we want that to get into the meat as we're cooking it. And if we get it all nice and brown before we put any additional salt, salt's just gonna, stick on the surface. So a couple nice dashes of fresh black pepper, and we're gonna start to saute that up. And we want to get this nice and brown, guys. So this is definitely going to take at least 10 minutes to get to the point that you want it. So you're going to stay here. You're going to kind of toss it around. Keep your eye on it. You don't want it to burn. And when it's nice and brown, we'll be back and continue with the recipe. Okay, we've been sauteing our meat and veggies for just about 10 minutes now. I think it's just about where I want it. I have had it on high, so I've stayed here and continued to stir it. Plus, you want to get your hamburger into small pieces, not big chunks at least. All right, so I'm going to go back to medium. And I guess at this point, we can add our beef bouillon. Let that stir it in there. And a couple teaspoons at least of soy sauce. We'll start out with a couple. Stir that in, and then we got just about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. excuse me. Give that a little stir, get it all incorporated. This filling, we're going to thicken it up at the end, but you could use this for basically anything. You do this, you could do a cottage pie or shepherd's pie. Of course, the shepherd's pie is made with ground lamb, which we have a nice recipe and video up on the site if you want to check that out. But doing a shepherd's pie, put all your, after you've thickened it, put this in a nice casserole, top it with some mashed potatoes, and brown it up nice. You got a beautiful shepherd's pie. I'm going to give this a good 4 shakes of Worcestershire. All right, and the only thing left to do is get some water or stock in here, and we want to just about get it covered. That's just about 4 cups. I think that is perfect. Okay, now I'm not going to bother tasting this right now. The stock isn't hot. Now, everything isn't going to taste the way I want it to yet. But we're going to bring this back to high. And we're going to bring this to a boil. And that's going to take a few minutes to boil. So when it's boiling, we'll come back. All right, we're at a nice boil. I did end up adding a little bit more beef stock to that. So I have a little bit more gravy at the end. So I would say probably in total about 5 cups, but we'll put that all in the recipe. All right, so you want to bring this to a boil and then cover it and bring it to a simmer. Now on my burner, low is the simmer. And we want to let that simmer gently for about an hour. So what we want to do is get our meat tender and our vegetables cooked all the way through. Once that's done, so like I said, I'd give it at least an hour. We're going to thicken it up with some with a cornstarch slurry. So see you guys in about an hour, although it'll be almost instantaneously when you're watching the video. Okay, we've been simmering for an hour. Let's give it a stir. And I'm going to give it a quick taste. Let's make sure our veggies are cooked. And just for seasoning, delicious. I'm going to give it a couple squirts of Worcestershire. Just kind of refresh that. And I think it does need a little bit of salt. We'll put a couple good pinches in. 3. And a little bit more pepper. So I'd say I've used probably about a teaspoon of salt in total. At least that salt that I put in, that doesn't include salt that was in the soy sauce or the Worcestershire. All right, the last thing to do is thicken that up. So I'm gonna make a little bit more than I probably need, just because it's easier to make more than less. So usually as normal, a cornstarch slurry is half and half or thereabouts. Get that nice mixed up. Make sure there's no lumps in there. And like I said, it's going to depend upon I am going to increase my heat a bit. How thick you want it. And we'll slowly pour that in. And if I had that boiling, it would thicken up a little bit faster, but I don't know if you can notice, but it's already has thickened quite a bit. I like it a little on the thicker side. You might like it a little thinner. All right, that's all I'm going to put in for now. I'm going to give it a few seconds to heat up, and we'll see where our thickness is. Okay, so we have got some nice thickness in there. I like it a little bit thicker, so add a little bit more in. And I might as well add the rest of it. All right. That will, like I said, let it heat through, turn it back down to simmer while you're getting everything else ready, and let that sit there. It'll thicken up a little bit, but there you have it. Savory ground beef. All right, it's almost ready to eat. Now, I should have mentioned earlier, while you were letting it simmer for the hour, would have been a good time to either get your rice or your noodles or your mashed potatoes ready. So there you go. All right, in about 5 minutes, it's going to be dinner time. Okay, guys, it's supper time.
Yep.
All right, let's dig in. So with Wade's, not that Wade doesn't like my delicious instant mashed potatoes.
I do.
But we just served it a little bit different, so it'll give you ideas. I put his over rice. This is the way my grandmother always served it. She did them separately. All right, he's anxious to eat.
Oh,
and I'm going to test my savory beef first. That's good.
That's delicious. Yeah. That's full of flavor. Yeah.
Tastes just like my grandmother. I wish she was here to enjoy it with us. But
that was good.
You taste a little bit of mashed potatoes. Of course, my grandmother would always have some bread and butter on the table as well, but we're trying to cut down on the carbs.
Delicious.
Wonderful. Like I said, with the 2 pounds of beef, this can feed an army. Well, that's all I've got to say. Other than, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching us make our dinner tonight as much as we have enjoyed making it for you. And more importantly, I hope that you give this recipe a try. Let us know if you like it. And one other thing, I don't know if there's any of our subscribers are Doctor Who fans, but it'd be interesting to hear what everybody liked about or disliked about the latest episode. I loved it personally, but I love anything Doctor Who, so.
Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button. That way you'll know when our new video comes out. And check out cherryhillhomecooking.com. See you on the next video.
Ciao.
Bye. That is delicious.
Isn't it tasty?
It is.